everybody, it's me, Alexa, and today we're going to be talking about Charlie, the 2015 Malayalam film directed by Martin Prakat, who also wrote it alongside Uni R. The film, of course, stars Parvati as Tessa and Dulquer Salman as Charlie. Per usual, this will be a spoiler-free review. I'm going to be discussing a few things kind of at the end, but they're very, obvious from the start, I feel like. So I'll give, a minor spoiling warning whenever I do that, but you're pretty good if you watch it, in my opinion. I think you'll be fine. But if you really don't want any spoilers, skip whenever I say to. So the overall story of the film, Parvati's character Tessa, her family wants her to marry this guy who she does not want to marry, and she wants to just not have a plan. She wants to go out, live life, just be free, and do whatever she wants to do. And so she runs away to go do that, and in that discovers the character of Charlie, but she doesn't meet him. And so then the whole movie kind of becomes about her chase of finding Charlie, and or finding Dulquer Salman. And that's the whole overall plot of the movie. While my overall thoughts on the movie are quite positive, I do have a few negatives, and one is a little bit of a big negative. But overall, the story was extremely sweet. It was a very happy film. It was one of those man, I wish my life was like that films. Maybe inspirational drama. I don't know if that's a genre name. It should be if it's not. I feel like that's a good way to categorize this style of film. It's showing a way of life that, while maybe isn't always the most practical for everyone, is fun to maybe escape into for a couple hours as you watch the film. One thing I was happy about is this pacing of the movie was a little slow, I feel like, so I was happy that it was a bit shorter of a film from Indian film standpoint, where it was only a little over 2 hours long. I think that did do the movie favors. I think it could have honestly been even shorter, but I know that they like to have the intermission, so I feel 2 hours is probably the shortest that they could do with still having a nice intermission, because any shorter than that, you don't really need one. So I understand why they kept it around that length for, commercial reasons and such, but I do think that a 1.5 hour cut of that movie, or even 1 hour 45, would maybe be a bit more engaging all throughout. Because there were a lot of really good moments in this film, and a lot of really cool small stories as we figure out who Charlie is, and also Tessa goes about her life. So there's a lot interesting that happens, but I think there's a bit too much time in between them sometimes. So it does get a little slow feeling. While going through it though, I do have to say a big compliment on the acting in this. Parvati and Dulquer, I've seen act together in Bangalore Days as well, and they have really great chemistry on screen, I thought, in that film, and that proved true again in this one. They aren't together on screen too much in this movie, but the way that they interact with each other when they are is really natural, and it fits the characters as well as their relationship with each other, I think, extremely well. While Charlie is of course the name of the film, I would argue that Tessa is the main character. That's the character that we're following the whole time as she discovers about this other character. So while you could make an argument for why Charlie is the main character, I personally think, after thinking and analyzing it over, that Tessa is the truer main character of the film, and she does a really great job at the role. Same with Dulquer and everyone else involved. I thought the acting in this film was really spectacular all throughout. So my biggest issue with the film though also did lie with the characters. As much as I liked who they were, they simply lacked any sort of dynamic character development throughout. They had really great character development, both Tessa and Charlie, where we learned about them. We got to learn about exactly who they were, and it was shown to us really well. They never told us. It was all shown, and it was really cool, and that was done extremely well. But, and this is a minor spoiler, skip ahead to whatever time I have on screen if you want none, but I think you'll be fine if you hear this. I don't think it impacts the story at all, and enjoyment of it by hearing this. But who they are at the beginning of the film is the exact same who they are at the end, just the only difference is they're together. And so, I mean, there's some differences, there's a few obstacles that are now out of her way. The main plot line, of course, is her finding Charlie. In that path, she didn't learn anything that helped her grow as a person. And so she was already a pretty set person. She was a really great character, and it's not like she was too childish or too anything that she needed to alter and change for this movie. I just wish that there was something about her, or even Charlie, that made them alter her as a person based on all the things they went through, because there's so many really great stories and so many great little moments, but they seem to have no real effect on who the characters were to their core. They still remain the exact same. Now, they were good people before and good people after, so in this type of film with the inspirational drama, it's not necessarily needed for them to have any sort of character growth, but as a storyteller and filmmaker, it's something that I always look for and really appreciate in films, is when you can have really great character growth. And so to have the lack of that very fundamental part of filmmaking, like storytelling, which is the character development and like well, they have really good character development. I shouldn't use that word. The lack of character arc is what keeps it from being like a really great film, because it's a really fun film now and it's nice and, you know, positive. You watch it, it's like, oh, I wish my life was like that, you know, all that stuff. Like, wish I could be that free, no responsibilities, etc. But it makes it so it can't be anything more than that. And I know it's probably purposeful choice, because the friend even makes a comment saying like, wow, you really haven't changed, whenever she looks at her mismatched sandals. And I do love her character. I think that she's a lot of fun, and, you know, the way that she lives her life is really engaging to watch in a film and really enjoyable as well. But I just wish that there was some sort of arc to her. But there just wasn't. There was her, and then I'm gonna find him, and then she finds him. I think that that's also why I had an issue with the pacing of it, because I was waiting for something to change in her, and nothing did. So like it became like a bit almost stagnant feeling at times with her characters. There's a lot of cool stuff happening, a lot of, you know, cool moments and like cool stories that we're hearing, but she stays the exact same. Charlie's character too, as we learn about him, he's still like the same guy. He's just a guy who goes around and interacts with people and does nice things for them and continues moving and like just travels all around and kind of jumps place to place. Never know where he is, and that's who he is the whole film. He never has like a moment where he changes who he is. He has a lot of big moments in his different little stories that we learn about him where but he never has a change. He knows who he is at the beginning, and he's the exact same person at the end. Same as Tessa's character. It does have some nice commentaries in the background. It's all in the background, and there's just and even those commentaries, I wish that like some of those darker themes and some of those darker moments that are in the film maybe affected how our characters behave more. Okay, I'm gonna say a quick major spoiler skip for this time on screen, because I think a suggestion to make the movie better. Like Dulger's character, if maybe he was a bit selfish, and like he is still a little selfish, I'd say, in certain ways you could say, but he's also really caring and kind. And so maybe if we had that selfishness was more prominent, and then after, of course, Mary's character kills herself, and, you know, we're told that he's crying for a long time afterwards. If then maybe he made changes to start helping people more. Maybe that was his moment, a shift of character. That would have been really engaging and really cool. But instead, he was already that helpful, kind person, and then he just stayed that helpful, kind person with another sad thing in his past. Which, you know, also is engaging. Yeah, the sad thing happened and he didn't let it stop him from being who he is. You know, that's a good thing too. All right, done with saying it in a spoiler way, but to recap it for people who don't want spoilers, it's kind of, there's a lack of dynamic character development in it. There's a lot of character development. We learn a lot about the characters and who they are as people, but there's not really a huge arc or anything. Like, there's not really a lot of changes the characters throughout the film. Now, despite that being an issue, I also want to say that I know that this is the type of movie that it is. It doesn't need to have any sort of huge character arc or huge character moment or change to be effective at being the inspirational drama that it is. So it's still very good and effective at what it's trying to be. But as a filmmaker and like as a storyteller, that's something that I just wish there's a little bit more of. Like, just give me some sort of dynamic character development. You give me lots of amazing character development. Now make it more dynamic. So I love the two characters, but I wish that there was something more dynamic. Now on to my biggest positive about the movie. It's definitely these locations and cinematography. Absolutely gorgeous all throughout the entire one, all the artwork, and also I think some of the set design, like inside of her room and stuff, you know, like where they have all the different little baubles, like the dolls and such, you know, and that sort of set design. But then most of the film was out in beautiful locations. And I think that all of it looked just so stunning all throughout. And they had so many great like insert shots and close-ups that were really cool and dynamic. We got dynamic stuff in the cinematography of it, if not in the characters. So it was really beautiful to watch the whole time, definitely. And I really loved all the choices made there. One thing that was interesting though, and this will be a commentary in my next positive as well, but it's a slight, I don't know, it's not necessarily a negative, it's just an interesting thing. They have random moments of like other genres. Like they have like kind of like almost horror-esque moment like twice in the film, I'd say. It's not very scary or anything, but like it uses some horror elements in those moments, like, you know, some darkness, and like the way that they build the suspense in those moments are definitely reminiscent of like horror films rather than an inspirational drama. So I thought that was an interesting insert. I do think it helped keep the film engaging, but it made me kind of question why, because it didn't really, I was waiting for like that to have like something about the future and like make sense. But it didn't seem to really be in there for any reason past just making the movie more enjoyable, which, you know, fair enough. But I do maybe wish that either it wasn't used or it was used for more of a purpose, because it didn't really seem very purposeful each time, like with the extent that they went into using horror elements in those two scenes. I was expecting that to have some sort of payoff or connection later on, and it simply didn't. It was still really effective and did good at the scenes they're trying to convey, but I think they could have done it in a quicker way that maybe didn't have so extreme horror elements used in it, that would have been more cohesive with the rest of the film. But the one thing that I think was really good all throughout was the music. I think that it constantly had a very upbeat, happy vibe to it, because even though the movie does have some darker stories and like darker messages hidden in there, the overall message of the film is very positive and happy. And the music fit that perfectly, both the songs and the background music all throughout. The background music in the film was something that I was constantly made aware of in a very positive way, where I was like, it just really added to a scene and made, like, you felt the music with it, and it helped add to that positive emotions of scenes and such, and I think that it was extremely effectively used. And all the songs throughout it were really beautiful as well. It was cool to see that Orukari Mukalinu song that I had watched and reacted to before, and how that worked into the story, because I was very intrigued as to how that played into it, and seeing how they did utilize it, because I was interested whenever I watched that song, and I think I say it in the reaction now, I'm like, how is this inserted into the movie? But I do think it was very cohesive and worked really well with the rest of it. It all flowed naturally, and it was a really cool song to help show like the internal thoughts of Tessa's character and like all of that, and I thought it was really beautiful and well done. It was cool to see the lyrics as well. All the song lyrics were really gorgeous. Overall, I think that the movie was very effective, but it was just very, very simple. While it is very simple, it is also effective. I wish that maybe it had done a bit more to be a bit more like complex and just have something else in it, but then again, that's kind of what the charm of this movie is. It's a very pure film. It's a story about these two people and their journey to find each other. And it's very sweet, well done, and I did really enjoy it, but I do just wish there was a bit more to it, because I did find myself getting a little bored at times, even though I was engaged with the characters, but just, it felt like, and there was, whenever they told those cool stories, you know, which ones, you know, there's a lot of different stories that we get shown and told throughout the course of the movie, and whenever showing those, I was engaged and with it, but then in between that, it was just like, the characters remaining the same and moving about their day. And so I'd find myself a few times during those, especially in the first half of the film. I think the second half, like normal, did a lot better of keeping it faster paced. I feel like that's a very common trend in a lot of movies from everywhere, where the first, you know, half is set up and then you have more of the payoff. But then this one's setup did continue into the second half, I would like to say. So the setup was really long. Pretty much the whole movie was a setup for a few final moments at the end, to be honest. So for the shark rating, I'm gonna have to put this one in the hammerhead shark category, because while I did really enjoy it, it's really fun, it is just a very, very simple film. While being simple isn't necessarily a bad thing, and they handled it really well and they executed exactly what they wanted to. But for me, I either wanted a bit more or for it to be a little bit shorter. So for that reason, it is going to be an hammerhead. But again, really good category, great movie, and I'm excited to watch some more. It's the kind of movie where if you watch it at the right point in your life, it'll be extremely helpful for you, and it'll be like a really great moment. Like, you know, some movies are in your life and like you can associate them with certain moments and like life happenings. And I feel like this could be a really strong one of those movies. Like, if you're watching it at the right time, then it can really have a huge impact on your life, and that is something really amazing about film. So that's a huge, huge positive to it. Alrighty, though, that's all I have to say about Charlie. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hope that you all are staying safe out there and have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!